You know, in the National Football League, absolutely everything can change in a matter of seconds. I mean, think about it. One moment, you are the undisputed future of a franchise. You're the golden child. You are the guy poised to carry an entire city on your shoulders for the next decade. And then, suddenly, the next moment you're staring up at the stadium lights, feeling the crushing weight of a shattered season just pressing down on your chest, while a freezing crowd watches your championship window slam shut. It's brutal. Welcome to This Explainer. I am your host, and your channel for this deep dive is called NFL Nexus. If you crave cinematic, uncompromising looks at the reality of the gridiron, you need to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment on what you thought down below. And hey, if you want to take it a step further and get even more involved, support the channel by becoming a channel member. Okay, let's dive right into this, because today we are tracking a ticking time bomb down in Houston. The year is 2026. The Houston Texans have just endured a truly catastrophic end to a baffling, deeply flawed 2025 campaign, and their franchise quarterback, Stroud, is entering what can only be described as a crucible. We are talking about a pure, unadulterated prove-it year where absolutely everything he has built is suddenly, shockingly, on the line. 9. I just want you to sit with that number for a second. 9. That is the number of total turnovers Stroud committed in the most critical, high-stakes game of his young career. When the lights were at their absolute brightest, the foundation didn't just crack, it completely crumbled. This was the divisional round against the New England Patriots. This was supposed to be the game that officially cemented Houston's status as a terrifying AFC powerhouse. Instead, it was a total system failure. 5 fumbles, 4 interceptions. Let me repeat that. 5 fumbles and 4 interceptions. Honestly, every single dropback felt like a slow-motion tragedy unfolding in real time. It was a performance so completely disastrous, so totally out of character, that it left fans, coaches, and analysts in the state of stunned, deafening silence. You have to understand, this wasn't just a tough loss on the road. It was a collapse on a fundamental, psychological level. 9 turnovers is the kind of game that creates ghosts. It haunts a player's mechanics. And more importantly, it's the kind of game that makes a front office close their heavy oak doors, turn off their cell phones, and look at each other to ask the most terrifying question in professional sports. Do we actually have our guy?
And you know, that lingering, really uncomfortable question brings us directly to the ownership level. Take a look at this quote from Texans owner Cal McNair, speaking to reporters ahead of the team's charity golf classic. What's absolutely fascinating here is the agonizing space between the beginning of his sentence and the end of it. It is a masterclass in corporate ambiguity. He starts with, "We're fully committed to CJ," right? That's the PR-approved company line. It's perfectly designed to keep the fans calm and keep the local media at bay. But then comes the caveat, the hesitation. We'll see how it all works out. Look, that right there is the harsh, unvarnished reality of the NFL bleeding through the microphone. It's a surface-level commitment that barely masks the reality of a ticking clock. In this league, let me tell you, "we'll see" is not a gesture of patience. "We'll see" means the hourglass has been flipped. The sand is running out, and it's running out a lot faster than anyone in that building wants to admit.
Which brings us to Section 1, Stroud's contract reality.
To truly grasp the gravity of this situation, we actually have to pivot away from the turf for a minute and look closely at the ledger. Because in the NFL, the real truth isn't found in press conferences, it is always found in the financials. The romance of Stroud's 2023 Offensive Rookie of the Year campaign, yeah, that's dead and buried. What remains right now is a cold, calculated evaluation period. The crucial point here is the financial maneuver the Texans just pulled off. General Manager Nick Caserio recently exercised Stroud's 5th-year option, right? So that locks him in through 2027 at a guaranteed salary of $25.9 million. Now, Caserio casually brushed this off as a no-brainer when talking to the press. But when you look at the stark contrast of the quarterback market, it tells a completely different story. Right now, as we speak, there are at least 16 NFL quarterbacks pulling in more than $30 million annually. The market is absolutely exploding all around them. Yet Stroud's long-term payday has been deliberately deferred. Think about that. There is zero urgency from the front office to hand him a Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow-style megadeal. Zero. What they're doing is buying time. They are buying exactly one more season to figure out if that 2023 rookie sensation was the real CJ Stroud or if the jarring 2025 regression we just witnessed is who he truly is.
And here is exactly where the tension truly escalates behind the scenes. While Stroud is basically forced to wait for his massive payday, sweating out another grueling season just to prove his worth, the checkbook is wide open for the other side of the ball. The Texans have aggressively and unapologetically invested in the defense. And honestly, it's the defense that essentially carried this team to a division title anyway. We are talking about massive, top-of-the-market extensions for their cornerstone pass rusher, Will Anderson Jr. We're talking about a massive bag for the relentless veteran edge threat, Danielle Hunter. And on top of that, a highly lucrative new deal to bring in Azeez Al-Shaair to anchor the middle of the field. The franchise is screaming its philosophy from the rooftops right now: we trust our defense. But man, does that create an immense, suffocating pressure on Stroud in the offense. The defense is getting the money, they're getting the long-term security, and they're getting the trust. The offense? They are strictly expected to catch up, and fast.
So let's look at exactly why that offensive trust completely eroded in the first place. The statistics from last year illustrate the absolute severity of his sophomore slump. In 2025, Stroud regressed across the board in ways that quite literally sent shockwaves through the organization. He threw for just 3,041 passing yards. Now, in the modern, pass-happy NFL, that is a remarkably pedestrian number. Add to that a mere 19 touchdowns against 8 interceptions in the regular season. But it wasn't just the stats. The physical toll of the year was utterly brutal. Stroud missed 4 pivotal games due to a devastating concussion. This isn't just a minor statistical dip, guys. This represents a structural failure of an offense that was universally expected to take the league by storm. The inconsistencies plagued them week in and week out. The offensive line leaked like a sieve. The timing with the receivers was totally off. The defense practically kept their heads above water, violently dragging the team into the playoffs. But the offensive engine was sputtering on empty for months. And of course, that led directly to that catastrophic January collapse in Foxborough we talked about earlier.
So, what's the plan to fix it? Let's move to Section 2, the reinforcements and retooling with unknowns. This brings us to the frantic, high-stakes retooling period. May 7th through the 9th, Phase 1 of off-season training, the rookie minicamp. Now, usually, rookie minicamps are this really fun time for bright optimism, you know? It's a casual introduction to the speed of the NFL, but not in Houston, not this year. This draft class isn't just a group of wide-eyed rookies taking pictures in their new helmets. They are critical, desperately needed, unproven puzzle pieces that Nick Caserio and head coach DeMeco Ryans must fit perfectly into a fractured scheme right now. Every single rep matters, because the margin for error for this franchise is currently 0. First up in this rookie class is a baffling, high-risk gamble, Marlon Klein out of Michigan. The Texans spent the 59th overall pick, that is a premium, highly valuable late second-round selection, on a tight end. The plan is clearly to run heavy, physical multiple tight end personnel packages alongside Dalton Schultz. But dive into the smallest details of Klein's college production, and I promise you, you start to sweat. In 2 entire years as a starter for the Wolverines, Klein barely scraped together 350 total receiving yards. And touchdowns? He caught exactly 1. 1 touchdown in 2 years. And yet, this front office saw fit to spend a second-round pick on him, loudly signaling they expect him to be an immediate contributor in a high-stakes passing attack.
So the massive, unavoidable question is, will it translate to the National Football League? Honestly, it is quite literally the multi-million-dollar question hanging over this entire coaching staff. Can a player who was effectively a ghost in a collegiate passing game suddenly morph into a lethal vertical threat against ferocious NFL linebackers and hyper-athletic safeties? Rookie minicamp won't provide the definitive answer, sure, but it will offer the first terrifying glimpse. If Klein struggles to grasp the complex route trees, or if the sheer speed of the pro game is too much, the Texans have completely wasted a premium draft pick in a year where they needed absolute certainty. Look, CJ Stroud desperately needs weapons he can trust immediately. The pressure is squarely on Klein to prove his draft pedigree isn't a massive miscalculation by the scouting department.
Moving over to the defensive side of the ball for a second, we find a much more calculated, intimidating chess piece. Kamari Ramsey, selected with the 141st pick on day 3. Now, what's genuinely fascinating here is exactly how general manager Nick Caserio views his new weapon. The pre-draft appeal for Ramsey was his supreme versatility, right? His toughness, his raw physicality, and the measurables to play absolutely anywhere in the secondary. But Caserio went out of his way during pressers to highlight Ramsey's specific prowess at the safety position. He aggressively pushed back against the idea of him purely as a slot or nickel corner, and that tells us everything we need to know. The Texans are looking for a violent enforcer at the back end of their defense. They want a heat-seeking missile who can set a punishing tone from day 1 of minicamp and immediately earn the trust of a demanding, defensive-minded head coach like DeMeco Ryans.
And then, amidst all the highly drafted prospects with their guaranteed signing bonuses, we have the ultimate dark horse, the guy fighting tooth and nail for his professional life. Daniel Skobakovsky, an undrafted free agent out of Illinois State. Just let these numbers from the FCS level wash over you for a second. 80 receptions, over 1,100 receiving yards, and 9 touchdowns. Plus, he boasts a massive NFL-ready 6'3", 205-pound frame. The guy possesses great, reliable hands and incredibly refined route-running abilities. But you know what? None of that matters now.
These rookie minicamp days are quite literally vital for a player like Skobakowski. He isn't guaranteed a single dime or a single snap on Sundays. He has to step onto that practice field and immediately prove to the coaching staff that his FCS dominance wasn't just some lower-level fluke. He has to prove that he deserves one of those coveted, fiercely contested spots on the 53-man roster to help catch passes from a quarterback who is completely desperate for reliable targets.
All right, let's get into the final act. Section 3, the 2026 Crucible.
The pieces are officially on the board. The contracts have been either heavily deferred or permanently signed. The rookies are in the building learning the playbook. Everything now leads to this moment. Behind the scenes, there is a sheer physical, structural, and mental warfare being waged in Houston right now. Because CJ Stroud, he knows better than anyone else what is at stake. He knows the narrative forming in the media. He knows about the ghosts of those 9 turnovers floating around. He knows about the $25.9 million placeholder contract waiting for him next year instead of a historic make-a-deal. And he is responding the only way a true professional can. He went to work in absolute silence. This incredibly deliberate 3-step offseason plan shows his retaliation. Stroud didn't just spend hours reviewing that nightmare playoff film, he fundamentally altered his body. Step 1, he dropped excess weight. Step 2, he added dense, lean muscle mass. Step 3, he completely reinvented his physical profile. Look, this isn't just about looking good in a uniform for the cameras. This is about literal survival in the pocket. This is about ensuring that his body can withstand the violent, unforgiving punishment of a 17-game NFL season. It's about ensuring that the concussions that derailed his 25 campaign do not repeat themselves. He is actively rebuilding his armor for the war to come.
And let me tell you, the coaching staff absolutely sees the obsession burning in his eyes. Head coach D'Amico Ryans is a man who demands absolute perfection and maximum effort from every single player on his roster, and he provided this crucial validation recently. He said, "He's been dialed into our strength sessions, our coaching sessions, and our meetings. He's been dialed in and very into it. That's all you can ask for." Now, Ryans knows the immense, crushing pressure Stroud is under right now. So to see his franchise quarterback attacking the silent, unglamorous months of the offseason with this level of unwavering, intense focus, that is the exact glimmer of hope the Texans front office needs. The mental and physical preparation is finally matching the gravity of the moment.
Because here is the really hard truth of the situation. The front office has essentially removed every single excuse from the table. Caserio went out and completely revamped the offensive line, aggressively utilizing trades, free agency dollars, and the draft to build an impenetrable wall in front of Stroud. They reached deep into their pockets and handed out a major, highly lucrative contract extension to his primary weapon, star wide receiver Nico Collins. They secured foundational defensive pieces like Derek Stingley Jr. for the long haul, guaranteeing the secondary remains elite. The organization has done its part. They built a Ferrari of a playoff-caliber roster. The infrastructure is firmly there. The defense is terrifying. The line is heavily reinforced. The wide receivers are paid and happy. Which means the ultimate terrifying burden now lies squarely and solely on the shoulders of the man taking the snaps. There is no one left to blame if the engine stalls this time.
It all comes down to a relentlessly ticking timeline that maps out the emotional journey of an entire franchise. Think about the path we've taken. It started in the bitter, freezing cold of January with that devastating, humiliating playoff collapse in New England, the 9 turnovers. Then it shifted into May with the critical influx of draft talent and the desperate search for reliable answers at rookie minicamp with guys like Marlon Klein and Daniel Sobakov. We are now currently in the grueling heat of the summer, witnessing Stroud's intense physical reinvention inside the weight room, and it is all hurtling uncontrollably toward the crisp air of the fall. The 2026 season kickoff. Every single front office decision, every rookie rep, every pound of muscle gained, and every deferred contract negotiation. It all leads to the opening kickoff of Week 1.
So the question we are left with is simply this. Is it enough? Is a revamped offensive line, an unproven rookie tight end, and a physically transformed, deeply motivated quarterback enough to finally erase the lingering ghosts of a 9-turnover playoff collapse? Is it going to be enough to convince a hesitant front office to finally open the vault and hand over a $300 million record-breaking contract next offseason? The margin for error is entirely gone. The 2026 season isn't just about winning football games in Houston anymore. It is about career survival, legacy, and hundreds of millions of dollars. The crucible awaits. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Remember, your home for these uncompromising deep dives is NFL Nexus. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment with your thoughts on Stroud's future, and hey, support our work by becoming a channel member. Until next time, keep watching the clock.